Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to the Heffy Doodle YouTube channel. In today's video, I am making this fun and rustic card. I'll be using these products here from Heffy Doodle. This is the Woodgrain texture background die. I have the Highlander Honeys stamp set for that cute furry little cow. There's a coordinating die set, but I won't be using that on my card today. And then I have this basic essentials die set I'll be using as well. So for the background, I am using a dark brown piece of cardstock and cutting it with that wood grain texture. And then to highlight the wood grain itself, I'm using the Crooked Broomstick Distress Crayon with Mica in it. You could use any distress crayon. I am wetting my finger there a little bit and really kind of just burnishing the crayon into the paper. It's going to leave a subtle highlight there and a little bit of shimmer, and I just thought it was a really fun way to use my crayons and to give a little highlight there. And this is really these are the first set of crayons that I've gotten, and one of the first times I've really played with them, so I am just having fun discovering different ways I could use them. So that just gives it, you can see there, a highlight on those stitched areas. And I love how that turned out when all the lines are done. Okay, for the focal point of my card, I'm going to make a little Polaroid frame using these two dies from the Basic Essentials die set. And then I'm going to stamp a little scene to go in that. I have a piece of cardstock here that's just over 2.5 inches square, and I'm going to stamp that little cow with some fade out ink because I plan to do no line coloring to color him in today. And I want to mask this off because I don't want to die cut anything. I want it to be just a flat scene. So to do that, I'm going to stamp this cow again onto some Heffy tape because it's paper on the front and sticky on the back, so it's perfect to use to make your own masks. I love the low tack of it, and it's thin. It's just the perfect mask, but I also love it to tape my dies down when die cutting. So I've got my little cow masked off, and then there's a little fence in this stamp set, so I wanted to make it look like he's standing in front of the fence. So I'm going to repeat stamp that, also using that fade out ink, and that will kind of complete my scene. The rest of it I'm going to kind of color in myself. It's really basic coloring, and I'll show you how I do that. So to extend the fence, I do have to overlap the fence because there's not, the end of the fence doesn't have the connecting pieces, but since it's fade out no line coloring ink, I can just draw that so it's a little more tidy than how I stamped over the top of something already stamped, if that makes sense. I decided I did need a little piece of fence right behind the center of him. It's only going to show a tiny bit, but it does make a difference. Okay, for his antlers, horns, really, they're horns. I'm using E00, also for his hooves and his face. I do actually end up come back with the E11 marker and darkening those areas out a little bit, besides the hooves that I actually end up doing this color right here, E59, which is my darkest color. I wanted a reddish brown because that's the color of these cows that I envision when I see them. So my mid-tone is E39, and then my lightest is E15, creating that highlight. And I love this little cow. I think it's a really precious image to do with no line coloring, and if you haven't done it before, I know it can seem kind of scary. I still, when I do it, feel like this is not going well, but usually in the end I actually end up liking it. It's just kind of a process. When you're in the middle of doing it, it doesn't always look great until you're done. So if you haven't done it before, I encourage you to give it a try and don't give up. And also, if you don't like it, it's just paper, right? So it's a fun thing to do, and so long as you're having fun, that's the point, right? So I thought I would do the legs with the darkest color, but then that ended up being too dark. So I went over my back foot there with my E39, hoping that it would lighten up, and it didn't. So I actually went back over it with the E15 later, and that did the trick. So there's my cow, and now it's time to work on the fence. The darkest color I'm using here is E27. This is like my go-to brown Copic marker. E27 and E25 I use all the time. I just got a refill for E27, and I'm so happy to have these markers refilled that I use all the time. It makes a difference when you have fresh products that work well, right? It really does. Okay, I'm using B00 for the sky. I'm coloring in a circular motion and leaving some white areas that will be clouds. This is a very subtle background. I didn't want anything bright blue. I really wanted this to look like the country. It kind of looks more like the ranch. So I had a vision for this card in my head with the cow, the fence, some like a wheat field, which is what I'm doing now with my Y35 marker, just flicking in some grasses. And I love how it turned out. But this card really starts to take on a ranch feel. And I just went with it. Like I said in my head, I thought grassy meadow, in country look, but no, we're going full on ranch. So let's see how we get there. I used E13 and E11 for the kind of dirt or ground underneath him. I'm going to glue that to the back of my Polaroid frame that I made, and sometimes I like to just use my finger to soften out the glue because it was so close to the edge. I didn't want it to squish out on my beautiful coloring. I'm going to pop that onto my background using some foam tape. This Heffy tape is my favorite, this foam tape. I love it so much. It's nice and thick and it's not sticky on the edges. The backing peels off great. It's perfect for shaker cards, so I love it. So there I used my mini die cutting machine to die cut out the star that's also in the same die set as the dies I used to make that frame, my Polaroid frame. And I'm going to stamp this sentiment, Harry birthday, from the stamp set with the cow, and I'm using some really super light blue cardstock for that, kind of to go with the sky. And then on my star, I decided to use some, oh, I forget the name of this one, but the yellow Distress crayon with mica in it to kind of add a little bit of shine and color variation to the star. And then I adhered those in place, and I went through my stash and I found some stars that are pretty close to the same yellow as the star, added those on, and then I was like, I need something that kind of looks like rope, or I just had like, I need to bring out my twine and put some twine on this. So I brought out my twine, I kind of roughed it up with my scissors, and then I pulled it apart so it was really fuzzy. I love this look so much. If you've watched any of my videos, you've probably seen me mess with my twine before. And now I'm just going to roll it around my fingers to make it kind of look like a rope. Really rustic though, you know, because it's so frayed, but I love this look. So I have that rolled up. I'm just going to lift up my foam tape and then press that underneath so it's coming out from the corner. And then I needed a little bit of glue there on the edge, and I'm just going to put a heavy block on that, or a block, it's not super heavy, and let that dry. And then I brought in some more of those stars. I also had some in blue. It was, you know, close to the same color, and it just helps bring out some of that blue. And then I decided, well, we need a few more stars down at the bottom, and I just keep going, and this card's just leading me down that kind of ranchy direction. So in Idaho, we have ranches here, we have cows here, we have farms, and so I feel like this would be a really cute card for somebody that is really into that, or you know, kind of likes that farmhouse look, or it could even be a card for a guy. So I don't know, I just had fun making this. It was not what I originally had envisioned for this card, but that's sometimes when the best cards are made, right? I really had fun with it. I just distressed the edges of the card. If you don't have a distress tool like that, you can easily use like the edge of your scissors when the scissors are closed. I masked off the cow, and I'm using my crooked broomstick and flickering candle mica sprays to splatter the outside. When I was about to stick the Polaroid of the cow down, I thought I should splatter the background, and I was like, no, I like it plain. But in the end, it really needed splatter. So it looks really bright right here, but I know it's going to dry back a little bit, so I wasn't too afraid. But I did get a little dot of that mica stain right on the picture of the cow. So I decided I'm going to distress the Polaroid a little bit with some vintage photo distress ink, which is what you just saw me do. And I don't know if you noticed, but I got a little too much gold splatter on my sentiment. I forgot to mask that off, so I actually redid the sentiment. It's just a little scrap of paper, and it worked out fine. So a lot of distressing on this card and splatter. The rope oh, I love it, but I wanted another texture on this card. So I added a little glaze over the top of that largest star it has a little shine under there from the Distress crayon that will show up better once everything is dry. But there is my completed card. I had so much fun making this, and I love that you can take a set like the Highland Honeys and make a card that is completely different from the look of that set and make like this ranch theme card. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I sure had fun playing with all those different products and cute stamps. So thank you for stopping by the Heffy Doodle channel. If you want more inspiration, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram too. I'll see you on the next video. Happy stamping! Bye!